Audio article by the Common Constitutionalist entitled The Left's Special Ability to See Racism. I find it fascinating that the only culture not worth preserving is Western culture, and particularly American culture. No matter how long I lived in, pick a country, say Mexico, I would never be afforded the title of hyphenated countryman. Regardless of my insistence, I would never be considered an American Mexican or American Hispanic. No one would come to my aid and insist that American heritage must be preserved, that it would add to or somehow strengthen Mexican culture. There would be no protests, no march, no picket signs, no pressing to for English. And those in Mexico would have little patience with me flying the American flag. They would expect me to assimilate, and rightly so. Yet, as we are well aware, there is no such expectation in America. Quite the opposite. We are the ones who are expected to accept and celebrate everyone else's culture but our own, allowing them to live as they would like as permanent house guests. This, we are told, is multiculturalism, and it is indeed to be celebrated as somehow strengthening our nation. Because of this, we are slowly losing our identity, our culture, what it means to be an American. Recently, Representative Steve King, Republican of Iowa, landed himself in hot water with the liberal elite for stating this very thing. He was interviewed by the poster boy of leftist elitism, CNN's Chris Cuomo. Cuomo immediately began attacking King regarding a tweet by the Republican in support of a comment made by Dutch politician Geert Wilders. Cuomo began by saying that, quote, "You wrote Wilders understands that culture and demographics are our destiny. We cannot restore our civilization with somebody else's babies." This is being condemned by many regions of American politics and citizenry. What did you mean? Unquote. Of course, Cuomo, being the unhinged leftist that he is, didn't give a crap what King meant. To Cuomo, as with all leftists, this was about race, as everything is. He had already convinced himself that King's statement was all about race, that King wasn't really talking about being American. What he really meant was maintaining our country's whiteness. Quote, "Chris, we're a country here, that if you take a picture of what America looks like, you can do it in a football stadium or a basketball court, and you see all different kinds of Americans there. We're pretty proud of that, the different-looking Americans that are all still Americans," unquote, King said. To me, it's pretty obvious what Representative King is saying, that being American has nothing to do with color, but I'm not a leftist with special abilities. I've often said that liberals are the only humans who believe they have the ability to peer into one's soul. Regardless of what anyone even leaning right says, leftists can see inside and tell the world what you really meant. Chris knows that King doesn't really mean all that nonsense about being different looking. He's talking in code about preserving only the white race because he's, a racist. King elaborated that since 1973, Americans, quote, have aborted 60 million babies. There's been this effort that we're going to have to replace that void with somebody else's babies. That's the push to bring in much illegal immigration into America, living in enclaves, refusing to assimilate into the American culture and civilization. Some embrace it, yes. Many are 2 and 3 generations living in enclaves that are pushing back in resistance against assimilation, unquote. This is when Cuomo switched on his special soul vision as he stated that, quote, "It seemed like you were trying to say someone else's baby means you're either white or you're not right," unquote. Wow, nifty slogan. You sure did show King for the racist he is, despite the fact that he said nothing of the sort, and that almost 56% of all aborted babies in the United States are black or Hispanic. The back and forth continued for a time, and the entire so-called interview was a monumental waste of time and a setup. They always are. King was never going to convince Cuomo of anything, and Cuomo knows, due to his soul vision ability, that King is a racist. Frankly, it escapes me as to why anyone from the right would bother subjecting themselves or more to the point, lowering themselves to appear on CNN. Thank you for listening.